What is up, and welcome to Cryptographics, you guys. Today we've got a very special episode. We're talking to the two founders of Maximus. Stan, Brian, welcome to the show. How are you guys doing?
Doing good. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, absolutely thrilled to have you guys here. So, guys, if you don't know what Maximus is, today you're going to find out. It's a very cool idea. It gives people who are probably like you and me, because we're not whales, a chance to get paid like a whale, get paid that highest percentage possible in Hex and so much more. So we're going to get right into it today. Let's just talk quickly to the chat, make sure everyone's doing well, and then we're going to hop right in. All right, let's see here. We got Rizzo. Welcome, welcome. I see you. We got Blue. We got Neen Khan. Arnold Bach, welcome. Stephen Clark. We got Mofit Meals Monica. Guys, don't forget, please. This is going to be an awesome episode. Please I have in the description, you guys. When this video is over, I have both the Twitter and the YouTube for both Brian and Stan, the founders. Go follow them, subscribe to their YouTube, as well as the Maximus Cash website in the link below that you guys will be able to go and interact with once we're done. Dougie Peach, yo. All right, we got Jim Pearson. We got Hexdeck in here. We got Joey Torres. Thomas Turner. All right, that's everybody. Sweet guys, welcome, welcome. I'm glad you're all here. So, guys, let's start. I don't know who would like to go first, but how did you guys get into crypto? And then how did getting into crypto lead you guys to where you are now?
I'll let Brian has a much better story on how he got into crypto. My story is because of Brian, so I'll let him.
Well, no, I mean, we definitely got in it together. Going back, we longtime best friends. We grew up together, and then when we were leaving college, we started working on one of our first startups, and it was a virtual reality camera and a 3D photo sharing app. So cool. Stan and I were building that, and then we actually got funding from a crypto company because we were trying to figure out how to enable people to make money by creating content on this app we were building. And so cool. We had gotten funding from this token that had an ICO in 2017, and we had never even invested in anything or really used crypto before. And so we were just kind of thrown into the whirlwind of, where we're getting paid in this, random 2017 ICO. Because over the course of 2 years, we're getting paid in it, and then having to figure out how to use that to, pay the developers that were helping us, and to, buy these cameras that we were selling on Amazon, and do all those things for our startup. And so that was how we were kind of thrown into the fire of, was by getting, some of the funding that came out of this like crazed 2017 ICO, so back then, right. There's, now they're called, DAOs or NFTs or, DeFi things like, that whole, speculative mania used to be around the ICOs. And so that was what kind of brought us in. And then while
Brian literally during that period could write a book. Like, he was one of the first founders to ever, he was like funding our startup by trading Bitcoin and this other token. And so he literally, like our startup experience was like very scrappy. And like there were some times we were like very close to going broke, but like Brian was able, through his like trading knowledge, like to be able to make some gains and got us through a couple of months on rent and eating. So shout out Brian for that.
Yeah, clutch and impressive.
Because at the time, like now it's like common where what's his name, Saylor, talking about using Bitcoin as like a corporate reserve asset, and here we were in it was 2018 through 2019 where we were our sole. We had some other funding, but like our main source of income during that time was this getting paid in crypto, because they're paying us to try to build something on top of their platform, which is like a token launching platform. So we had we were getting paid in crypto and having to pay our bills in dollars, and so using crypto to be able to spread that money out over time. And then so we were doing that for years before Michael Saylor even heard about Bitcoin. And so that's kind of funny, but yeah, that's kind of what threw us into it, and that's what led me to Richard Hart, was because when I was trying to learn, the two main people that really resonated with me were Trace Mayer and Richard Hart. I thought Trace Mayer was always a really strong source of information about just kind of like why crypto is important and why it's like kind of just like the next phase of, digital money. And then
Mhm.
Richard Hart, I felt like I learned a lot of practical things about markets and how to, understand the different trade-offs amongst different blockchains and stuff. So, so early on, I was just learning from Richard Hart. So when he started talking about Hex, we were kind of, tuned in, ready for that. And so, yeah, that's kind of what led us all to this.
That's awesome. So how much of a background, Brian, did you have before you got into the trading? Like, I'm just curious, how did you even get the start to
Zero.
know? You just started doing it.
Yeah. I wasn't even into like money or finance or anything. I studied
Really?
optical engineering in college. So I was going down a route of like hard science related to like 3D imaging. And so that's what got me to the VR stuff, is because I was into 3D imaging systems. And,
Right.
so, so that's like, so I was going down a whole different path, more related. And, like I probably, had I stuck to my path, maybe I'd be at Apple working on their augmented reality glasses. Like that was kind of the path that I was going on. And then when I had to start, using crypto to fund our startup, that's what kind of brought me into like the crypto finance world. And then, Hex kind of, really kind of amplified that. And so
that's super cool.
That's kind of my progression.
Yeah. That's a really cool story. Damn. That's awesome. Stan, what about you? Yeah. How did you get into crypto? How the heck did you end up where you are today?
Honestly, thanks to Brian, us getting introduced to that token through our startup, kind of started my journey with that. And actually I started out on the opposite side of crypto. Brian, I think you will admit that once upon a time you were a Bitcoin maxi, and we would have these like insane debates about like what Bitcoin, like, Brian had all the talking points of like how it's going to like destroy, the US government. So we would like have these hour-long debates. But once I got into Hex, honestly, I got in pretty early because of Brian, and then wasn't even really involved with the community. Actually, when we went to Vegas last year, it was kind of the first time I like actually got to meet people. And so, after meeting that, I really got more involved on Twitter and stuff. And then, with Maximus, we've been kind of just kicking back ideas on, the past like 6 months, maybe 4 or 5 months. And yeah, we kind of started like making it more official back in January. So it's been a crazy 3-4 months now.
That's awesome. So how did you guys come to the idea of Maximus, and also why the name Maximus?
Yeah. So it all kind of just started like just the concept of pooling Hex actually I heard Richard say something about how that's related to big payday or bigger pays better bonus, was to like incentivize, larger, less frequent stakes. So from the start, I kind of was thinking about that as a concept. But then, there's kind of no reason. And there were some like early pooling things, or like some of these, like they're called like hourglass games that some people got wrecked on early on in Hex, where they were effectively like big stake pools that had like different rewards and like different lockups. So that people have been kind of, exploring that concept for a while. And then over time, the topic of encapsulated stakes started to become more popular. And so, when I saw that, like the Staker app people, they had like published a contract that was like related to, wrapping your stake in something you could sell, when that was happening. And then seeing, even like how the people were interested in pooling to get better bonuses on pulse chain sacrifice. Right. So, kind of all these things related to pooling and encapsulated stakes, they were all kind of swirling. And so I sensed some demand there. And then when I started learning about DAOs, actually, I was playing around with some of these different like DAO creation platforms where you could have like a shared wallet, and then that wallet could run functions on behalf of everybody, like, like through the contract that anyone could run the function on behalf of everybody. That's kind of what led me down to that, and to understand like, kind of how to actually do it. And then I'd say the icing on the cake, which kind of pushed me towards urgency on this, was just how expensive gas has become. And then understanding how much it's going to, it could cost to end the max length stakes. And then seeing when I built a Twitter bot called Max Length Stake Bot, which I turned off, I haven't turned it back on yet, but it shows how many people are max length staking. So it tweets every
Right.
time. And
Yeah,
every
I've seen
day it
that.
shows it like a daily report. And whenever I look at that, I'm like, oh, wow, everyone under this median line, they're probably not going to be able to afford to end this. So like I sense, so, you know, I feel like, you know, it's urgent to try to stop people who are starting these very small max length stakes, because like the smaller your stake is, the more you benefit from pooling together. And so, so just how high the gas has got. And I really don't expect, like, you know, I hope it goes down, but I really wouldn't expect it to in 15 years. So that was kind of like the thing that really pushed me to start making Maximus.
Right. Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. So the name Maximus, is it just as simple as it sounds? Max like stink, Maximus kind of just go hand in hand, or is there something else behind the scenes that came up with the name?
I don't know. We actually debate. Me and Sam are actually debating the origin of the name, but go on.
Dude, I have receipts. I have receipts on the.
Show me, because I was looking for receipts on my end.
I've got it. I can
Let's
share.
Let's see who first mentioned the name.
No, I definitely did, because I created like our Twitter banner was the first, not only presentation of the name, but that and you said, "Fuck yeah, that's it." That's the tweet I can share.
Huh.
Where origin. But honestly, like, you know, I like our partnership, I, you know, have always, you know, Brian's such a visionary with great ideas. And I feel like I'm kind of like as like a product designer, I have the like mentality of like, okay, well, how can the public understand this better, right? Like, how can we make this easy to understand and easy to use? And so, like, you know, with the DAO concept, it was going to be pretty complicated. Like, basically, you know, for the minting, it was going to be someone runs the function, and then we, like, as a DAO, we would have to, like, everyone would have to be monitoring and approve that. And so, very, very happy with where we've come from that, and making it fully trustless and a smart contract with only about 6 functions. So great work for Brian with simplifying the whole product.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, that is amazing. And to segue to where I think this is already leading to, this is a perfect almost segue here. When it comes to what even is Maximus? Now, you guys said that obviously the gas fees are a big reason, but maybe I think that's a perfect segue to start talking about Maximus and why it is and what it does for people and how it can help and how it can benefit. So what is it?
Yeah, so Maximus is just a smart contract that facilitates the pooling of a max length stake. And so it issues a token called Maxi that is redeemable for its pro rata percent of the total Maximus treasury, which is really just the Maximus contract address.
Right. And for the viewers who are listening and see they hear pro rata, what do you mean by that? Just so they're 100% clear.
If you have 1% of the Maxi supply, you can collect 1% of the hex and hedron at the end of the stake.
Perfect.
So 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 the Maxi token is issued 1 per hex deposited to the contract on the DApp, and you and then when that stake starts, just from the start, the Maxi is then liquid. Then after the stake ends, is it redeemable? So it has the benefit of consolidating all of the gas payments that would have happened if each of those people individually staked into one, which is like massive savings. It also has the benefit of reaching towards the bigger pays better bonus. Right. And then also it is then liquid, and you can sell any portion of your thing. So if you were to need early liquidity in a normal stake, you'd have to run emergency end stake, and that applies to your whole stake. Like, even if you just need a little bit of it, it's kind of all or nothing with that. And then even with like the HSI, the hedron stakes, that's an NFT. And so you can't like just break that up into smaller pieces. It's not fungible. And so you have to find the right buyer at the right price. So this is like, an alternative to those 2 ways of early liquidity that allows you to, break off any piece of yours and then just sell it on the market at any time. And so that the liquidity is certainly like probably the biggest benefit.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you said, so how, just to totally clamp down on how much the gas fee savings are like what is a max gas fee cost when you end that stake for the average user? How much is that?
So there's a website called hexnoob.com, and it has an end length stake calculator or max length or an end stake gas calculator. And when you type in 5555, depending on, and you just put in whatever the Ethereum gas cost is today, you can find that on etherscan.io. Right now, if you just put that in, it comes out to like 1.2 ETH to end a stake. And so, and that's assuming the gas prices are what they are, today. But you can kind of toggle that, and you'll see how many ETH it'll cost. And so, on any given day, there's between 50 and 200 max length stakes. So that's between 50 and 200 Ethereum that needs to come out of Hexagon's pockets in order to pay the miners in order to mint your principal plus yield. And so by consolidating into one, it just reduces the net loss of economic energy experienced by the Hex economy. Yeah. And so that's like the big, like not like, I mean, you use the individual, you save gas, but like that's probably like the big systemic benefit of Maximus is that, if that's say it's 100 ETH per day, and say that at that time, that 100, say Ethereum at that time is $10,000, that's like $1 million a day maybe the person has to, maybe $1 million of sell pressure on Hex, or that's just like $1 million of ETH that could have just been held in Hex. And so by consolidating this, we're hoping to keep more money in the Hex ecosystem, because the Hex contract is already, users of the Hex contract have already spent something like $25 million of ETH. And if that $25 million of ETH was instead just like in buy support in the liquidity pool, the price would be something like 90 cents right now. So
that's a crazy thought.
The gas impact has a massive, it's a massive drain on Hex.
Yeah, you don't really consider how much like cumulatively it adds up to when everyone's doing their stakes together. But when you put it like that, it's like, holy crap, that's so much money we're wasting on these guys who are over gouging us anyways, So I mean, I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, it'll be really cool to see too. One thing like success factor I'm looking at more so honestly than the amount of Hex used to mint Maxi is actually the amount of people that participate, because once we know how many people have participated, you can kind of estimate how much gas savings that really is total, right? So I think that'll be something really, really cool to look at.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how this plays out. I mean, we're a long ways away, but still, it's exciting to at least think about.
Yeah.
So on that front too.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Stan. Go ahead, then.
Oh yeah. This has definitely been a discussion in our Telegram. The best way I would describe what Maximus does is it's just like a hedge against that future risk, right? It allows a community to be able to come together and solve, because it might be a lot, it might not, but that's just a huge unknown, and it's just a good hedge for that future risk.
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I like that. Yeah. So when it comes to these, because there's a video that I watched, Stan, of you talking about there's 4 main utilities. We talked about obviously the gas savings. So what other kind of utility or what kind of benefits does Maximus have?
Yeah. So maximum yield. So we were talking about the 200% better bonus is locked in. We like to say that we're amplifying the bigger pays better bonus, that extra 10% up to 150 million. And just to clarify, somehow like someone said that it would be capped. There is no cap. It'd be awesome if we hit that, but we wouldn't cap it at 150 million. So another really cool thing about this stake is we're also, as far as maximum yield goes, we're locking in a 4x Hedron bonus. And then we're going to have it copied over to Pulse Chain as well. So massive yield there. And then gas fee savings, instant liquidity, right? So having a PRC ERC20 token. So being able to, sell a position of or a portion of your position at any time, but also being able to grow so that liquidity works both ways. By buying more Maxi, you're growing your position. And then the fourth would be market utility. So, being able to use your Maxi tokens to provide liquidity or any other yield opportunities.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's huge. I think for a lot of people to really realize what the ramifications of that are is you can basically utilize your Maxi to get out of a position as you see fit or need to, and then also buy back in later and possibly even get more into the position or have a greater position than you previously had, which is a really cool, it's unique. So I cover this in the video, like Hedron's great, but it doesn't, it's not a one-to-one and then
Yeah.
growing with your stake. You know, it's a static daily payout that doesn't grow with the amount of hex that's all in that stake, you know? So
Totally.
Maxi's different. It's really cool. So,
and maybe a fifth that I've kind of identified as well is actually like just simplifying hex staking for a lot of people, because, you know, we talk a lot about all these benefits and liquidity. But for a lot of people, just, you know, buying hex, minting Maxi, and then redeeming is just a really, really simple 3-step process to, you know, experience the maximum gain from hex as well. So I think that's a pretty big benefit for a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Speaking of liquidity too, so how, just so for our viewers understand, how would Maxi come on the market? Like how does that all work, for one? How would someone be able to buy it on the market?
Yeah, so it would require someone to create a liquidity pool. And so, you know, Maximus doesn't have a sacrifice phase. So when you mint your tokens, you will receive your Maxi once that transaction goes through. So, you know, someone could create a liquidity pool during the mint phase. We don't know, but if they do that, it will likely, you know, that liquidity pool should arbitrage around, you know, that 1-to-1 hex price. So, but then once that mint phase is over, you know, we have no idea what the market price could do. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what people sell their Maxi for, right? But they would need to provide liquidity in a liquidity pool for people to buy.
Right. And when it comes to price too, so there's a graph. I wonder if, you know, I might just bring it up here. If I can go to the Maxi site real quick. And you guys have a nice big picture here. Actually, yeah, perfect. I'll just quickly bring this up and just explain to everyone kind of how it's expected that the price will move in correlation to the treasury, and just how the market will dictate that as well. So give me just 2 seconds, guys. And we're going to go to this guy. Cool. So if you are seeing this now, this diagram, guys, can you explain what we're looking at here?
Yeah.
Brian,
So what you're looking at, that green line, so treasury value. So that's the value of all the assets that the Maximus contract holds. So it starts as just the hex principal. And then every day that goes by, that stake is earning yield that you can calculate. So every day, you know how much it's earned, but then you don't know how much it's going to earn. But, you know, every day that goes by, the treasury value measured in hex is going to grow. And then that's just like a bench, like that treasury value has nothing to do with the market value, except for just serving as like a benchmark for people who are buying and selling to factor into how high risk or low risk they think it is to buy or sell Maxi at any price. And so that price purely moves with the market. You know, it's a function of the size of the liquidity pool, a function of how aggressive buyers or sellers may be. You know, doesn't you know, a couple years in, does some like OG Maxi minter just going to be need money for something and they're just like cashing out a lot, even if they're paying at a discount, they want out. So, you know, it's just it's all a matter of what people are buying and selling for. But because that it is redeemable at the end, what's reasonable to expect is that over time the premiums and the discounts will oscillate a little bit within closer range to that final value, because, you know, that redemption window is so close. You know, maybe the value proposition of holding for the long term, you know, it's just becoming less because it's going to be redeemable in just a couple months. And so over time, you know, it makes sense to predict that those premiums and discounts might squeeze towards, you know, what the ultimate treasury value is. But early on, it could be wild because there's a whole lot of things that the market may be factoring in, you know, because, I mean, for one, it's, you know, how are people going to assess the future like the future unearned value of the stake? You know, because early on, you know how many T-shares you have, but you do not know what the daily payout is going to be throughout the lifetime of the stake. So that's a big uncertainty. You know, you're certain that it's going to go up, but by how much, you don't know. And so people may bake in a whole lot of blue sky into that. So maybe early on there's like massive premiums because people are just expecting it to grow by so much. But then over time, as it becomes more certain, maybe you see the price start to converge towards what it is. But there's who knows what's going to happen. It could be crazy. There's truly no way to predict this. Yeah.
And we're actually building a really cool tool into our dashboard that will allow you, you know, once the stake launches, I built out a calculator. I don't know if you played around with it, but there's more variables now, as far as like how much will get pledged and all of that. But once the stake is started, we're building like this calculator into our dashboard where you can change the variables as far as average T-share payout, future hex price at end stake, and future hedron price at end stake. So you'll be able to kind of forecast what your future redemption value is per Maxi, and be able to decide like how to price your Maxi essentially.
Yeah, and having the hedron involved in that's like a whole wild card, because because with the staking, the daily payout per T-share, it takes a long time for that to move in any one way, and you can assume that what it is today, it's going to be roughly that over the next, say, year. And so that's not as, and that's very, you can see it coming, and it's very gradual how that changes. But the hedron, on the other hand, that's a whole wild card there. And so we could see a lot of crazy price movement purely on just people speculating what hedron is going to be. So it was like a whole blessing that there's, the hedron launched before we did, and we were able to integrate it, because then that's another layer of speculative stickiness and another unknown. And the more unknowns there are, the more opportunity there is for people to, buy low and then sell high. So that can attract liquidity into the market. And so just having that extra unknown, where you're going to get, so there's some minimum amount that you're going to get. You don't know what its value is going to be. And so it just like adds in some extra volatility, and that extra volatility could bring in a lot more liquidity. And the more liquidity there is, the more that value proposition is of having access to liquidity. And so I think hedron really bolsters the value proposition of Maximus in a big way.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially too, guys, because hedron right now, it says, if you go on the site, it says it's about to, what does it say here? I think I was just on there. It says it's going to drop to a 5x in 2 days. So basically there's 10 days. So you guys are getting the 4x bonus, you said, right?
Yeah, which is essentially a 5x as well. With
I was going to say, going,
that's crazy.
So guys, we're getting if you're doing this, you're getting an extra X, because the way the bonus for hedron works is the base payout plus the base payout times the multiplier. So it's essentially you're getting one extra X for every X that is advertised. So to what you were saying, Brian, about the speculation, I mean, it just makes it even more potentially valuable in the future. It's crazy. So it's awesome.
And the way we integrated as well. I don't think you mentioned this, Brian, but so we initially were only going to run that the day before the stake ends. But now we've integrated where that mint function can be run at any time during the stake. So, on top of that minimum mintable hedron, that doesn't necessarily calculate the possible bonuses as well. So, there might be big opportunities as far as like those AMR bonuses with hedron.
Right. So when you're saying that, okay, I want to first start with how does the claim function happen end of day 14 when the stake starts? There's like the contract initiates the claim and starts the stake all at the same time.
So there's actually only the mint function, and you have to.
Oh, I see.
You have to serve a day within the stake, and then we can run the mint hedron function just to lock in the bonus. And then the mint hedron function can be called at any time, and then when that's called, the hedron goes into the Maximus contract and is redeemable at the end along with the hex.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then, let me think about. I had a good question for you, but it slipped my mind. So when it comes, so segueing to the end of the stake, actually the beginning and the end, because this is kind of where I wanted to leave this anyways. So with the gas fee savings, how is it divided? Is it automated? Is it percentage based on your stake? Is it divided completely by the number of investors? Like, how do these beginning and end stakes in this redemption all work for individual people?
So one person pays it, and they shouldn't expect any reimbursement. It's whomever is motivated to pay it for whatever reason, they will pay it. And so part of that was to make it so that for the very small users, they wouldn't have any gas liability.
Right.
Because, that's for those small stakers, that's a really strong value proposition. But for the bigger stakers, many of the larger Maxi minters maybe fine paying that gas fee because many other people are going to be paying that same gas fee on that day anyways. So, maybe just the largest person in Maxi just decides to be a hero and does it. But what the contract does do is it records a way for you to trustlessly know who paid for the gas. And so if Maximus holders wanted to incentivize somebody to end the stake, they could write a smart contract that will pool. They can trustlessly pool to reimburse the person who paid it. And so
cool. Okay.
we designed the contract in a way that would enable people to organize if they chose to try to incentivize someone to end that stake. But there's no, if you want that function to be run, you can run it, or, someone might incentivize you to do that. But it's fully on like a voluntary basis. And no individual is necessarily responsible for ending it.
Yeah. Right. I see. Okay. So one person does it and then the option for reimbursements there. Is that how it works in the beginning too?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it's both ends. So the first,
it actually doesn't record who started it because that's like a trivial, that's like a tiny transaction. The end stake is the expensive one. The start it's nothing.
Right. Okay. So one person pays it and then the end when it's okay. Sweet. That makes perfect sense. Okay. What else do I have? So when it comes to the actual code of all of this, is it based off of something already? Is it completely new code? Like what is Maximus DAO made up of essentially?
So it's just a custom, we just built from scratch a Solidity smart contract. We leverage the Open Zeppelin. It's called Open Zeppelin. It's a set of libraries that are pre-audited. And they're like the industry standard smart contract libraries. And so when you use those, you're certain that common failure cases are not going to happen to you. And so we start with just like the boilerplate smart contract stuff. And then we built in all the functionality. So all the rules that define when the minting phase starts, when the minting phase ends, when the stake can start, when the stake can end, when Hedron can be minted, what the value is going to be on redemption per each Maxi. All that is just custom Solidity that we wrote. But then we call the Hex contract and we call the Hedron contract. And so our contract just interacts with those contracts. And yeah, so it's only about of code that actually does stuff. It's only about like 130 lines of code, including all the comments and like documentation inside the contract. It goes to like 250 lines, and it's all very readable too. It's all a single file. And that whole concept of wanting this to be as simple as possible continued through with how we designed the contract, because we want it to be very readable. So sometimes smart contracts launch and you can't even tell what's going on, and that can be a huge risk. But in the Maximus contract, we wrote it in a way that where it's easy enough for a person who isn't very familiar with Solidity at all could reasonably read the contract themselves and fully understand the rules and see for themselves that it's going to work. And then so that even just like further reduces the trust that people need to have in, like the developer of a project, is if people can reasonably look at the code and make sense of it. So it's all,
absolutely
all with that in mind.
Okay, perfect. And then with that being said too, you guys have a first audit done and a second audit in the works, or is that completed as well?
So the second audit has been completed. So we've had 2 successful audits, and the
actually, I meant to share that last night. I didn't post it.
Yeah. So once it's deployed is when they're gonna finalize the report and issue us like this audit, pass. They're giving us a certificate for passing their security audit. And so we had 2 independent audits done, and the only things that they pointed out were some ways we could optimize the gas to make the contract just cost less for our end users, and to implement some basic non-critical best practices. And then the second auditor actually pointed us to just like a general security best practice that we weren't at risk of, because we're certain that the Hex contract and the Hedron contract aren't nefarious contracts. but so they add one just like extra layer of protection that you can apply whenever you're interacting with a third party contract that you didn't create. So they just gave that piece of advice. So we integrated that, just to boost the security of our contract. But none of the things that they pointed out were critical, and we really could have launched with what we had. But yeah, so we successfully passed those.
Yeah. I actually really like that they're, I think someone on stream, asked or pointed out that like, the code that gets audited could be changed, before launch. So the fact that they're verifying, I actually really love that. So that's cool that they're providing that certificate after we launch, once it's on chain.
Yeah, no kidding. Do you guys have, so if people want to go and take a look at everything themselves, is it on GitHub, or where would they find that?
Yeah, they can find it on the GitHub.
Links on our site at maximus.cash in the menu. I think it says GitHub.
Okay, sweet. Yeah, I'm gonna drop that in the chat real quick for you guys, just so if anyone wants to go there who is capable of understanding what they're looking at when they're looking at the code, you can go here, check it out, and yeah, there's a little GitHub link on the left-hand side. And also, guys, I'm not trying to ignore everyone here, but what I am doing is making sure that we flow well and we get all the information to you guys here. We're all on the same page. And at the very end, I am going to open this up to questions for any questions you guys still have for both Stan and Brian. So let's keep going, though. I had a couple questions from my last video that I want to make sure I have covered. Let's see. Right. So one of the big questions that I had, and well, two questions. One of them I think I answered, but it's still something I'd like you guys to cover and just say to the audience. And the second one so the first one is emergency end stake. Is it locked? Can someone do it? Is there any vulnerability there if someone were to do anything, make their way in through the code? Like, what happens with the emergency end stake button?
Yeah, so that is impossible to run. It's okay. There's only one way to run end stake, and that step checks to make sure that the current hex day is greater than the day that the stake ends. And so so we're relying on the hex, because we're reading what day it is on the hex contract, and so somebody would have to manipulate the hex contract day in order to do that, which at this point it's
good luck.
Operated for 2 years where we've seen nobody change the day, even though you could massively benefit if you could change the day. And so since since we're certain in that the hex day is always factual, that we read directly from that contract, that nobody can run the end stake function through our contract.
Right. Okay. Awesome. And then the second question would be related to, I guess, sort of related to that. Not really though. When it comes to any admin keys, any OA, or any powers that as founders or anyone that has control over the protocol could utilize over and above what the investors could benefit from as just the staking function, do you guys have, or is there anyone that holds any keys to the protocol in any way, shape, or form?
No, there's no admin keys, and there's no owner of the contract. There's no contract fee. The only Maxi that will ever exist is that which is minted with hex deposits, per the rules of the pledge hex function.
Right. Yeah.
It applies the same to everybody. And part of it, there are a couple of reasons. Other than it's just good to do nice things for other people. But with this type of thing, had we baked in some type of fee, somebody could have launched a competitor that doesn't have a fee. And then kind of we just like cut right to the chase of where that can kind of converge to. And then now for a competitor to launch one, it like reduces the class of people that could reasonably like launch it, because people will want to get paid, or they may have to pay someone else to build it for them. But also we then compete on, the liquidity, the brand recognition, our rapport that like the Maximus community is kind of built up. And so it just makes it a little bit harder to compete. If we just cut right to the chase at, where it would lead if people were all competing for the lowest fee. So on this contract, we just didn't, want to include that. And yeah, Stan, do you have anything to add to that related to like fee?
No. I think you got it on the head. Yeah, and no, to your question about OA, no OA. It'd be awesome. If the OA wants to participate, they're more than welcome to mint some Maxi. That'd be huge. That'd be awesome.
That would be crazy. That'd be the second protocol that the OA would ever have interacted with. So that'd be nuts.
Yeah,
that'd be wild. What was the other question I had for you guys here? It was something to do with the. Oh, it's slipping my mind. Is there anything else you guys want to add? Well, I'm thinking about this here. Is there anything else you guys want to add to the conversations that we're having so far?
Let me see. I watched your first stream about Maximus, and I think I wrote down. Let me just look. Okay, so when launch is tomorrow.
Right.
Yes. So tomorrow at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard, and that is technically the 16th, which is 0000 UTC time is the official launch date. So that was announced yesterday. We answered, how do founders make money? We can only equally participate. Okay, so one question that came up in that stream was, do you have to claim at the end, or will you automatically receive it in your wallet? So yeah, when redemption phase starts, you have to run the redemption function, which essentially burns your Maxi, and then you receive your portion of the Hex principal plus interest in the Hedron. Let's see. No fees. Is Maxi on Ethereum or Pulse Chain? We're launching on Ethereum, and then it will be copied over to Pulse Chain. No cap on the amount of Hex. Someone asked, can you redeem before 15 years? And the answer is no. So you have to wait for the stake to end to actually redeem. But if you wanted to, sell a portion or all of your position, you could sell Maxi on an exchange. And then we talked about, is there a risk for ending the stake early? No. The code's immutable.
Mm-hmm. That's huge.
Yeah.
And immutable code, immutable, huge. Locked.
Yep. So it'll launch as a complete product like Hex. One piece of, so people have been asking, can I use my other stakes for Maximus? Maximus does not affect your other stakes at all. So you can think of Maximus as just like as if you were, starting a new stake. You need liquid Hex, but yeah, it doesn't affect your other stakes at all. And then one was, how does the size of the stake affect me? So we talked a little bit about the bigger pays better bonus. So it really benefits everyone. The more participation, unlike a lot of other launches, the more participation is only beneficial to everyone. As we get closer to that 150 million Hex, it amplifies that 10% bonus. I also look at it from the perspective of, the more Maxi that's minted is more Maxi that you could buy down the road, right? So that's kind of why I'm pushing for as much Maxi too. Is just like I'm definitely in the accumulation mindset, and the more Maxi there is, the more opportunity in my mind. So yeah, and I think that was it for the questions I got from that stream.
Awesome. Those are great questions.
Yeah.
The one thing I wanted to just clarify so that everyone's listening, I want to hear is best, the best answer I can hear is for it. When it comes to the end stakes, when someone pays that gas fee, how do people find out that the gas fee has been paid and that they can redeem?
That's a good question. So the redemption page is viewable on the DApp right now because of test phase, and that will be viewable only when redemption phase is started. It's not going to be so it'll be viewable for the mint phase, because you can actually. I love that you pointed this out on your video. If you get cold feet during the mint phase and you want your Hex back, you can run that redemption function and get your Hex out. But that will be visible for the mint phase. And then it'll be available through the DApp when redemption phase starts. It will be on us to make it known. Obviously, we'll be announced that on Twitter in 15 years and Telegram. So
right.
Yeah, we'll definitely do our best to make it known.
And anybody can read that information directly from the smart contract, because there's a couple of functions in there, things like get Hex redemption rate, get Hedron redemption rate, and throughout all of the hex stake, the hex redemption rate is going to be 1 followed by 8 zeros. And then after the stake ends, you will see that the hex redemption rate is some other number. So you can just look at the information that provided in the contract publicly that'll tell you the status of the stake.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I think it's kind of even a funny question in a way, because I can't imagine that people are going to forget that they have a 15-year stake locked up that's worth a whole lot more money than when they started, and no one's going to be tweeting that out. I mean, I think it's really unreasonable to think that people are going to forget about that, to be honest. So I think that's a small issue, but you guys are going to tweet it out. Whoever participates is going to be tweeting it out. They're going to want their money back. So I don't think that's too much. That is really good to know, though. So thanks for that.
But it also doesn't even have to leave at the end of the redemption. From there, it's just like the Maxi coins are still fully backed by the hex, and the hex is still there. And so maybe for some people, based on how they want their income to be scheduled, they don't ever want to redeem. They just want to continue to just hold the Maxi that is, they know it's fully backed, and so it's there if they ever want it. But they wouldn't have any transactions to log at all, which is unlike, unless someone paid their good accounting on their regular stake and it just stayed there. But the Maxi actually never has to be, there's no deadline on when it has to be used to take out the hex. It's just always and forever going to be backed by however much hex that each Maxi is backed by.
Right. Yeah. So basically what you're saying is it goes from, so end stake happens, gas fees are paid. It comes in the treasury. The treasury then contains the hex, and whoever redeems it pulls their hex out. But if it never is redeemed, that hex stays there.
Yep.
Cool. Okay. That's actually, I didn't realize that. That's great. Yeah. Awesome. Do you guys have anything else that you'd like to add about, I think we've gone over pretty much everything here about how it works. We got the functionality. We know the smart contracts audited. We know why you guys are doing it, what's in it for you. Yeah. Should we move over to questions from the chat here, or do you guys have anything else you'd like to add?
I like that Brian brought this up in our stream yesterday. Really, really important that this isn't a sacrifice. So do not send your hex to the contract address. If you do that, it will be locked in the contract and distributed at the end, and there's nothing we can do about that. I've heard that people had done that actually when hex launched, that they were sending, to the contract. So you have to run the function through the contract to actually get the Maxi. So definitely don't do that.
Yes, please don't do that, you guys.
Yeah.
Sweet. So guys, what I'm thinking here is if you guys have any questions for either Brian or Stan regarding Maximus, we're going to open up the floor so that you guys can ask those questions now and make sure you guys understand everything. But first, guys, thanks so much for coming on. This has been great. I appreciate you coming on, taking the time to explain this for the umpteenth time, probably 1,000 times now.
No, thank you. And honestly, I know we were talking about this before, but the video you made that you recently posted this week about Maximus is literally the best video on Maximus. It's better than my videos.
Yeah, better than all of our videos.
Yeah. Awesome. It was great. So guys, go like that. And if you haven't, somebody's been saying it, softly tap subscribe button.
Softly tap.
I saw slow dance with that subscribe button.
I like that way better. That's awesome. I appreciate that. And guys, as well, you want to keep up to date with what's going on with Maximus, go follow. Like I said in the beginning of the video, we've got Stan and Brian's information for both Twitter and YouTube in the description, as well as the links to the Maximus.cash website where you can go and do your own research and figure out all of this on your own, because this is not financial advice and you need to make your own decisions. This is just arming you with the knowledge that you can then go and start your own research and journey to find out if you want to invest anything into Maximus. So with that being said, though, let's start with the questions here. To confirm, Thomas Turner says, to confirm, there is no bleed, say if redeemed in 17 years.
Yep, no bleed at all.
Correct.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, because it comes into the treasury is what we spoke about, right? Stays in the treasury.
Yep.
Awesome. So thanks for the question there, Thomas Turner. Ted Nelson asks, what happens to the unredeemed Maxi, and does it ever get dispersed? I.e., people die, people lose their accounts on MetaMask, etc.
All that is, it's like the same as if they just lost their hex, because that Maxi can never redeem the hex. if it's lost. And so the hex just sits there and the Maxi just sits there. So do not lose your Maxi.
It's like an unfortunate protection against the hex price from ever going or something being ever dumped on the market kind of thing.
Yeah, truly. Yeah, truly. Those coins are effectively gone. Right.
Which we're already at like, we got like, what is it? Like 40 something percent, 43% in the sacrifice wallet. And we got like 17% in the OA. And then if people were not to, I mean, there's just so much, there's like no hex on the market. It's going to be crazy by the time this is done.
Yeah.
It's going to be awesome. Let's see here. What else do we got? Oh, here's a good one. Yeah. Would you sell the smart contract to Elon Musk for $42 billion?
So yeah, I would welcome him to invest, to first buy $42 billion of hex and then mint Maxi.
And then we can talk. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Okay. I like that. All right. Let's keep going here. Let's see. Soundmine TV said we need a tutorial on running the process to put our hex in. Is there an app?
So I did make a video. If you go to my channel, it's like live demo where I showed on the Pulse Chain testnet, which will be the same as the mainnet as far as like the minting goes. So if you want to check that out, but also, you know, I'll probably make another one once we launch as well, just showing how to do it. It's a very, very simple process. You just input the amount of hex you want to mint with, you approve that amount, and then you hit mint and you get your tokens.
Easy.
Yeah, super easy.
Love it.
And it'll be so. People have also asked about the gas fee payment for that. So it'll be less than a Uniswap swap. So
wow.
I do advise. So the thing about this 14 days as well, there's no like bonding curve or anything. So, you know, you're going to get the same rate on day one as 14. So if gas is ever like ridiculous, I would just wait a little while and you should be able to get a good gas fee payment. So.
Yeah, and
awesome.
You can on the MetaMask, when it tells you like your gas, like slow, medium, fast, you can just click slow if you want to save a little bit more on that, because you have for the 14 days, and you can always speed it up after. But but yeah, there's not too much of a rush.
All right, let's keep going here. Alan, can we bridge Pulse Maxi to Ethereum? Well, almost couldn't say that.
Yeah. So I mean, kind of. I think most of the bridging is actually going to take place in the other way, for like where the eMaxi is going to be bridged to PMaxi so it can trade on Pulse X. But yeah, I mean, that, you know, I think you very well could bridge your Pulse Maxi to Ethereum, you know, if you wanted to, but yeah.
I'm not sure why you would necessarily want to, but you never know, I guess.
You could do it.
Yeah, the answer is you can. Well, thanks for the question, Alan. All right, let's keep going. Will we have to mint Hedron tokens waiting at the end of the Maximus stake?
So the minting will take place during the life of the stake, and the Hedron will just be in the Maximus treasury for you to redeem with your Maxi tokens.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So what I'm going to do here, if the question's been asked, because I'm realizing there's a lot of questions that unfortunately have been answered throughout the stream, we're not going to answer them just because you can go back and watch those. Everything's been answered for the most part. It's new questions or things that we're going to go a little more in depth with that haven't been answered. I'm going to only click on. So I'm sorry if I'm skipping your comment, but I just want to keep things flowing properly here and not be going and repeating ourselves too much. This is a good question, actually. And Tic Tac Crypto, I will get to yours after as well. Because we didn't touch fully, maybe as deep as you're going to ask, but SwitchKill65 says, can someone explain the reason that total addition of gains is 3% versus the 10% bigger pays better bonus? I think I misunderstood the last time it was explained. This is a great question.
Yeah. So it just has to do with how the bigger pays better and the longer pays better bonuses are calculated. It's not like a 300% more interest that you earn. What it like. Or like, so for longer pays better, it's called like a 200% bonus, and bigger pays better, it's called a 10% bonus. That's not a 200% bonus on your interest. All that is that each hex that you're staking, its income producing capacity is increased by 200%. And so with the longer pays better, that increases that earning capacity of the hex by 200%. So including the 100% that it just is earning by default, it adds that twice over. So now the total is like 300. But then the bigger pays better is a 10% increase in income earning capacity per hex. And so that 10% of the total 300% from the longer pays better, that it's only 3% of that total. So like the bigger pays better, it really just increases earning capacity by about 3%, purely because of how much the longer pays better bonus also increases it. And so that's kind of what that means. So like from your perspective, so if the pool had 150,000 hex versus 150 million hex, the extra earnings that you would be missing out on is only about 3%.
Yeah, right.
And so the bigger pays better. While that is significant, it's not like a massive bonus, but it is it is still meaningful.
Yeah.
Absolutely. When you add things up, I think this is one of the things that I've been thinking about with all this is, like what you guys were saying earlier about the gas fee savings, right? If you add all of these things together, right, you are getting an extra 2.866% hex over the 15 years. If you're a smaller player and you don't normally get that max 10% bigger pays better bonus, you're also getting 3.3% more hedron, which is an anomaly, which could go like 3% more hedron could add up to be an unbelievable amount in gains. That 700, if you're doing like I did the 50,000 hex stake, you get an extra 700,000 hedron. That 700,000 hedron could be worth a whole heck of a lot of money in the future. So it's not just 2.866% and 3%. It's potentially a whole lot more. Plus, then when you factor in the ETH fees you're saving on, I mean, it makes it, if you were to somehow measure all that together in the potential, the savings and the rewards they far outweigh just the little numbers we're showing you here.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, I think all that will be just reflected in the price, like that market price. It's purely a sum of, the value of what's already been earned, the estimated future value, maybe discounted to the present because it's uncertain, plus the hedge value, and then, estimating some future value. And so throughout the whole time, the market is just going to be like, that price is really going to be communicating how the market is pricing of like the earnings of a hex stake. And so, with all those things considered, so I think it'll be a really interesting story to watch unfold.
Totally.
It's going to be crazy to watch that unfold, because there's going to be so many ups and downs, and like as things change for either hex or hedron, you're going to see like crazy movements in what the market thinks that a single Maxi is worth. Yeah, it's going to be a wild journey. It's going to be a long journey too.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
That'll be great. All right, let's see what we got here, guys. So Saint Watch, we already covered your question. Oh, hold on, I want to go back to Tic Tac Crypto's question. Okay, so we kind of covered this, but just to reiterate, because this is important here to understand how you could get in or out in the beginning. Let's go over this, and maybe we dive deeper into like maybe theoretical pairs off of what would be the better liquidity pair long term for someone who maybe would want to provide liquidity.
I'll let you answer that, Brian, because you have a good.
Yeah, so probably the pair that makes most sense to exist, and probably the best pair to provide liquidity on, is going to be the Maxi Hex pair. And that's because the Maxi redemption value, it's kind of like a center of gravity for the market to trade around. And coins that trade around some range, those are typically the best coins to provide liquidity for, because you experience less impermanent loss. And so I would predict that the Maxi Hex pair is going to be the most liquid pair. Anyone can choose to set up any liquidity pool that they want, but I think that the Maxi Hex one is going to be the one that is most popular. One, because of that, less impermanent loss. So what that means is that you're, at the end of the day, you're ending up with both more of Hex and more Maxi, which really means you're earning more Hex. So being a liquidity provider in that Maxi Hex pair, you're earning those fees, which is just building up your Maxi and your Hex. And so while the underlying asset that you hold is liquid. And so that's a way to earn yield on your liquid Hex and your Maxi, which is like staked hex, but it's held in a liquid fashion. So you're earning APY on liquid assets, which I think is a really good complement to earning yield on your solo hex stakes, where your hex is illiquid. And so probably the APY on this, solo liquid hex stake is going to be greater than the earnings that you get as a liquidity provider. But then as a liquidity provider, you have the benefit of having liquidity at any time for any portion of your underlying Maxi and hex that you put in the liquidity pool. So it's like another alternative to earning yield while maintaining liquidity on the thing that's earning you the yield.
Right. My question would be there, because when I think about that, and I don't know if this would completely be accurate enough, but my concern with putting a Maxi and a hex liquidity pair would be due to, when we think about Hart's law, most of the liquidity for hex would not be in a Maxi pool, right? So any correlation to price or the ratios moving would have less of an impact, more so than if it was like a major or more prominent pool that contain hex. But would it still be a good idea, considering that if people are buying Maxi, they're technically selling hex in that primary liquidity pool to get it, and therefore potentially reducing the price of hex, even if it's a small amount, and placing the pump up on Maxi instead? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
So if you're going from hex into Maxi, so you have hex in your hand to start, and so you could otherwise sell into dollars, and that would push the price of hex down. But then when you're buying Maxi with your hex, you're putting that into the hex max liquidity pool. So that isn't in that moment being sold for dollars, and you're getting Maxi. And so buying Maxi on its own in hex that you already have, that doesn't push the price down. Or even buying Maxi with USDC, which first maybe routes to hex. And then, so first it's buying hex and then buying Maxi. But if someone's selling Maxi, to get hex, and then they're selling that, sales of Maxi, which are really just sales of hex, push down that by, just by the amount that you're of the hex that you're selling. And so it's just kind of like an extension of hex. And so I don't think it necessarily displaces or adds any selling that isn't otherwise already happening. So it's just like, it's just kind of like an extension.
Right. That is a good point with the routing. Actually, I didn't think about that, to be honest. And that's a very valid point. Okay. So just because we went a little deeper there, so people could get a better idea of what the potential outcomes are in that situation. But I think we almost kind of glossed over about, this is the most simple answer in comparison to what we just said, but can you please ask about liquidity? So trades like for TikTok crypto, how does that work? How can people buy or sell their Maxi real quick?
So just by on Uniswap, just how you would buy or sell hex. There will be, not saying we're going to do it, because we anyone can set up the liquidity pool. It doesn't matter who. So after somebody, could be you, TikTok crypto, you could set up the Uniswap liquidity pool for Maxi hex, and then from there, anytime you buy, you're buying from the liquidity pool. Anytime you sell, you're selling into the liquidity pool. Right, and that's just how it'll work.
Yep.
Awesome. Okay, that clears that up. And then we're going to go to, this is an interesting one. So could you make Maxi 2.0 next year?
So as far as, like this contract as is only a one-time thing. Who knows what the future is going to hold? There's obviously a lot of demand for this pooling concept. We think it could have ongoing benefit. And, that we certainly have a lot of awesome ideas related to kind of how to build upon this concept. But as of now, like those are all fully ideas. Like don't expect any future work out of us. This
no
Maxi, it's like that certainly applies here. So, right now we're purely focused on a successful rollout of this one. And then from there, it's all, it is what we all make it. It's, we really view everyone who's minting Maxi and everyone getting involved, like they're all co-founders in this. And so, we're really going to, lean into the Maximus community as a whole, kind of to see, kind of where we take it. But as of now, there's no plans at all. It's, this is our pure focus right now.
Right. One step at a time. Yep. Love that. Okay. Well, we got another one here. So I think you guys probably know this guy, Bobble Guy.
Yeah. Legend.
What happens if any Maximus token is sent to the burn address during the stake? Does it increase share percentage of other holders or lead to unredeemable hex and hedron in the treasury?
So great question.
Yeah.
Really good question.
I'll have to check to see what sending it to the burn address does. But if you run the burn function, so the Maximus contract has a function called burn. It's like one of the standard boilerplate functions, and it's the same burn function that the redemption tool uses. Like when you redeem, your Maxi gets burnt, and then your portion gets returned. But if during the stake, I know for a fact that if you run the burn function, which effectively sends it to the burn address, that reduces the total supply of Maxi that is used to measure what the redemption rate of the hex and the redemption rate of the hedron is. So burning Maxi in through the burn function increases the redeemable hex and hedron in the treasury after the fact, because now there's less Maxi to divide it amongst. But I'll have to check if just sending it to the burn address. That may not. I don't know how just sending it to the burn address impacts the total supply function in the contract, but I do know that burning it prematurely does. Like burning it outside this, but that's only before, because once the stake ends, those redemption rates are finalized. It calculates how many hex to send to Maxi purely by dividing total hex after the stake divided by total supply of Maxi. And so whatever that total supply is at the time the end stake is run, that's what the redemption rate is going to be. So the burning would have to happen before that.
Perfect. That's a great question.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to add this one too. So why would I buy Hex anymore if I can buy Maxi?
Well, so buying Hex to buy a discount on the Maxi Hex price, that would be that's one reason. Another reason would be to pump the price of Maxi. Maybe depending on what size you are, each incremental amount of Maxi, maybe you can increase your Hex that way. Or like just by buying Hex, maybe buying the top of Hex and vowing to never sell, and can help boost the value of the underlying Hex that your Maxi is redeemable for. There's all types of reasons why you might want to, but buying Maxi certainly is a very competitive offer, because it is it's like you're buying pre-staked Hex that is then redeemable for and depending what price you buy the Maxi at. Potentially it's like you're turning 1 hex into 1.2 hex purely from a discount.
Yeah.
So
that's huge.
It is a very, very tempting offer.
That's very true. That's very true. This one, we did cover this, but I think because of it's happening tomorrow, this is an important question to restate the answer to. Is the token address for Maxi token available to the public yet?
It is not. It has not been generated. That will only be generated when the contract is deployed. Right. And that is yet to happen. So when that happens, you'll hear it from us, and people should certainly we kind of give this warning yesterday in the video, but whenever launches happen, all kinds of scammers come out of the woodworks with fake Telegram groups, fake DM support, where they're going to try to get you to send your Hex to another contract. Do not fall for that. When you're running, even on our DApp, when you're read what the MetaMask thing is telling you. Don't just blindly click confirm, because what if somebody, hacked our web hosting site and swapped a contract address out with their own contract where they take the Hex? So always confirm that when you're signing your MetaMask transaction, that it is displaying the contract address that you can find on, confirm it across numerous ones of these are, each of our Twitters, YouTube, Telegram, the real Telegram, so just make sure you're interacting with the correct contract, and do not fall for scammers trying to steal your money. So be very, very careful when searching for that address. Honestly, don't make yourself a target. Like don't go in the chat and ask for the contract address. Go in the chat and search for in the pinned message and read it. Like don't go, because that's how you paint yourself as a target that you're going to get scammed, is by going in and asking a question that you can instantly read the answer to on your own. So don't paint yourself as a target to get scammed, because whenever these things come out, there's all the scammers come out of the woodworks. So please do not lose Hex. There's no, like, if you don't run the contract interaction pledge Hex as intended, there's nothing that anybody can do to help you. Like, there's no solution for you. So please be careful. I cannot stress that enough.
Awesome. So I don't see any more questions, guys, but what I would like to know, because outside of Maximus, outside of just this new thing you guys have built that is really cool, really interesting, we also have Pulse Chain coming and PulseX coming, this whole ecosystem. So I want to know, what are your guys' like, what are the things you're most excited for? What are your plans? Do you have any ideas that you want to specifically, as far as strategies that you're implementing, or any favorite coins or tokens? Sorry. What do you guys think? What do you guys think?
I'm pretty simple. I'm really excited for, I don't know, it'll be really interesting. It's been interesting to watch people's opinion on PulseX and Pulse Chain and what people think is going to do better. Yeah, I don't know. I'm really looking forward to using the PulseX platform when it launches, because it's amazing. Like it's bravo to Richard Hart, bravo to that team. The dashboard, the coin dashboard, like for Maximus is going to be a great tool for our community. So really looking forward to that. But yeah, man, I'm definitely not selling those anytime soon. So I'm pretty much, Pulse Chain, PulseX, Hex, and Maxi at this point going into it. I feel like I have some ETH, obviously just for gas fees, but I'm like so scared to be holding ETH when the fork goes down, because that's going to be a bad, it's gonna be a bloodbath. So that's probably my biggest strategy, is trying to like manage my ETH at fork. So that, yeah, I'm pretty simple. What about you, Brian?
What I'm most excited for is, and part of why we're in such a rush to try to get the whole mint phase done by a Pulse Chain launch, I think we're gonna slide in there. Even if we don't, it's no problem at all. Like everything will just work totally as it goes on. Like there's no difference. But the reason why I wanted to get it fully complete before Pulse Chain launch was so that the total supply of eMaxi equals the total supply of PMaxi. And the reason why is because looking at the eMaxi to PMaxi pair on PulseX compared to the eHex PHex trading pair, the deviation. So if the market was measuring Maxi and Hex as equal, those prices would trend together. But what this gives us an opportunity to see is how the market is measuring the value of Hex staked for 15 years, which would be that PMaxi eMaxi value, compared to how the market is measuring the liquid Hex to each other. So it's kind of like two opposite ends of the spectrum of how the market is measuring the value of staked Hex on Ethereum versus staked Hex on Pulse Chain, relative to how the market is valuing liquid Hex on Pulse Chain versus liquid Hex on Ethereum. So seeing how those numbers vary, I'm really interested to see that, because what you'll see in that difference is how the market is baking in like this is systemic risk of Pulse Chain being a new network, and but also the gas fee savings, or like the short-term gas fee savings of Pulse Chain. And so you'll see the different like how the market appraises those values play out, which I think is like really interesting to look at. No
kidding. Yeah, I didn't even think about that, to be honest. That's a great point.
Yeah.
Like when it comes to both, so it's interesting when you look at PulseX, there seems to be people are divided on which one they think is better. Which do you guys, when it comes to PulseX and Pulse Chain, as far as the token's concerned, do you have one that you are looking at a little bit more than the other one? And also, when it comes to volume, because volume for PulseX is going to be a very important thing. And we talk about these numbers, like you get $1 billion in volume, you get $600,000 in buy pressure through the transactions that buys up and burns PulseX. Yeah. But I'm not so sure we're going to get that off the get-go. I don't think that's very likely, to be honest, considering Ethereum's been around for how long now, and they're just now getting on Uni between 1 and 2 billion a day. So what if you have a favorite between Pulse X and Pulse Chain, which one is it? And then what do you expect the actual volume for us to get on a rough kind of estimate in the first, let's say, few months of Pulse Chain?
That's a great question. Brian, I'll let you answer that. You probably have a better estimate on that than I do.
As far as volume estimates, who knows? Like I can't even think of numbers in that setting. But I find myself thinking about Pulse X more because Pulse X to me is the secret sauce behind Pulse Chain. Like the whole, because of the copy, like the one-to-one copy of all assets, because compared to other types of these like layer 2 scaling solutions or just like these complete like, separate EVM chains where like they're, you can bridge back and forth, but like what happens on one is completely separate from what happens on the other. Pulse Chain is unique in the sense that because the contracts are fully copied over and all the coins are fully copied over, that and because they're bound by a market where like the value of the token on Ethereum has a price relative to the to the token on Pulse Chain. And so you can kind of just treat, and because the coins were distributed equally to everybody, it's just like, it was like a linear scaling of the supply. And so that actually makes it so that Pulse Chain can act like a extension of Ethereum that is bonded by that market. And so, and that all has to do with the Pulse X pairs. So having that value of the asset on Ethereum relative to the asset on Pulse Chain, like that's the key piece. And so for that reason, I think that Pulse X is the more important one. And also because of the potential liquidity provider opportunities and maybe just like all the craziness that could happen as the market is discovering the value of the asset on Ethereum versus the asset on Pulse Chain. For certain pairs, there could be like massive trading, massive, maybe some type of arbitrage. And the more of that, the more speculation, that's what really drives the volume up. And then the high volume, one, it creates more Pulse X that's bought and burnt. But two, all the trading activity, bids up the gas price on Pulse, makes those fees go up, which helps strengthen the network. And then also, because of the Pulse Chain fee burning, all the trading activity on Pulse X is actually also creating burning of the Pulse of the PLS supply. And so having a really active Pulse X market, that's the secret sauce to the whole thing. If Pulse X isn't successful, then that spells trouble for Pulse Chain. But so I'd say Pulse X is probably the secret sauce there. As far as which one will outperform the other, hard to say, because during certain periods of time, kind of how Ethereum, it runs on these business cycles where price is pumping when there's some use case of Ethereum that's driving a lot of speculation, a lot of retail speculation. So 2017 it was the ICOs, 2020 all these DeFi food token yield farming things, 2021 NFTs. So there's kind of been these cycles that are driving a lot of demand into Ethereum. And it's like, so that pushes the price up when there's a lot of speculative activity, a lot of fundraising going on, and then price goes down when the hype cycles kind of die down, and then people are selling off all the ETH they raised or all the ETH they made. They fleeced from people through their NFT scam or whatever. So that's how Ethereum. That's like the underlying cycle of Ethereum, because it's the rails upon which other assets are built. And so that I would expect that to be similar for Pulse Chain, where there maybe like Pulse Chain alt season, where like all kinds of shit coins get launched on Pulse Chain, and that's driving the Pulse Chain price up. Then as
they will,
then as the tides and kind of turn, then maybe it sells off. So it's hard to say what will outperform, because maybe over certain time frames, one may outperform the other. But also, I mean, people view holding the kind of how like Phantom was a massive success, AVAX was a big success, Solana, even with the challenges that they have, it's still a success. Like there's high demand for these EVM, or like layer 1 assets. So that could help push price of Pulse Chain up too. But also there was a lot of success with the exchange tokens, like the Sushi Swap, Uni, 1inch, you name it, all these coins. So kind of similarly, there can be a lot of demand on the Pulse X side of that. And then also because of if I'm correct, the PulseX token is the DAO token that's used to vote on incentivized pairs, right? Is that is that true?
You actually,
I believe so.
yeah, I don't think you actually, when I was playing around on testnet, I don't think you actually have to spend your tokens, which is great. You actually get a voting power based off your PulseX, and it doesn't have to be liquid too. So it can be, you can do the single-sided staking and still be able to vote with that power. So that's
awesome.
huge.
Yeah. So like if people want to influence what is incentivized, there's buy pressure for PulseX, and then plus the fundamental of the buy and burn and all that, you know, and just like new coin. So that can has a lot of reasons why it can go up as well.
Yeah. And speaking of the incentive token, one thing as a community we're definitely going to be looking at once Pulse Chain launches and PulseX is getting the Maxi hex pair as one of those incentivized pools, so people can, you know, earn the INC token by farming their Maxi hex LP token. So that'll be a community effort down the road for putting a proposal through on that. So yeah, stay tuned for that one.
Yeah,
that'll
awesome.
be
yeah, no kidding. Stan, what's your real quick? What's your? It sounds like you're a little bit less sure about if you even have an opinion on the volume, but do you have an opinion on the volume? Plus, like Pulse versus PulseX. What are you thinking?
I don't. Brian has kind of taught me this, and Richard Hart as well. Is just kind of an accumulation mindset, and it kind of goes with pretty much all the assets I hold. I kind of drown out the noise as far as like everything that's going on. I have faith in kind of a long-term vision for both. So I'm kind of just along for the ride and excited to see what happens. And, hopefully I am hoping for some dip, right. To accumulate some more beyond what I got from sacrificing. But yeah, I'm just excited to see how it goes down. It'll be fun.
It's hard. It's hard not to just be excited in general. Like, it's hard to pick favorites. It's just, there's so much going on. It's amazing. I can't. And you know what? I don't know. Like, it seems like we're so close too. I mean, I don't know how close it feels like it's close, which we felt close since like November, but the fact that we're like at the end of testnet V2B, sacrifice balances are there. I mean, like, I don't know about you guys, but it feels like it could be 2 weeks or a month or something like anywhere in between away, but who knows at this point. So, well, I don't have any other questions in the chat. I think we've nailed absolutely everything. I don't have any other questions for you. Unless, is there anything else that you guys want to bring up before we say goodbye to the chat?
No, I'm really, well, first off, thank you so much for having us on. This has been a really great stream. This is actually the first like interview stream Brian and I have done together. So thank you for having us. I think we've covered.
Oh, no way. That's awesome.
Yeah. I think we've covered kind of the warnings as far as like not sending your hex directly to the address. You got to run the function. People have been asking like, how do I get ready for this mint phase launching tomorrow? Just buy hex, and it's a really, really good time. Obviously not financial advice, but it's at like 11 cents right now. So stack your hex, and thank you, huge thank you to our community as well. Our recent growth would not be possible with the amazing leaders in our community answering questions and tweeting about it. So thank you guys so much. Brian, did you have anything?
No, I think you said it all. Thank you so much for having us. We can't wait, and thank you for bringing this message to your audience. We absolutely appreciate that.
Well, I'm glad you guys created the product that I'd want to talk about. So thank you guys for making something that's really cool. And guys, thank you for being here, and thank you for this great interview. This has been a lot of fun. Great to meet you guys. And guys, one thing I want to cap off before is this interview was not financial advice. Take everything you've learned in this video and take it with a grain of salt, put it under scrutiny, go research it, think about it, figure out what makes sense for you if you don't want to or do want to do it, and do it on your own accord. Do not listen to us, even if it sounds really, really good, like you should maybe do it already. Stop, wait, go research more and do it on your own. With that being said, though, guys, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for being on here. Great to meet you, Stan. Great to meet you, Brian. I hope you guys enjoyed the stream in the chat. We'll see you guys all very soon. I will be back next Monday. I'm taking some days off. It's been a hell of a month here, so I'm taking some time for myself. But guys, have a great weekend. Enjoy the holidays. Stan and Brian, I hope you guys have a great weekend as well. We'll chat very soon, I'm sure. And guys, tomorrow, remember, so Maximus launches tomorrow. the minting phase at what time?
5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. Yeah. Or I could drop the UTC time is technically the 16th at 0:00. So yeah,
Perfect.
Get ready, guys. It's gonna be fun.
I am excited to see what happens there. So guys, if you haven't already, go in the description, go follow Stan and Brian on their socials, smash the subscribe button to this channel, like it if you haven't already. And guys, have a great weekend. We'll talk to you very soon again. Bye for now.